I'll just be British. Have my teeth.
I couldn't let you do it. I'd have been messed up. Why didn't anybody tell me?
He's just like,
Oh yeah, thanks.
I've used it. I was gonna be like, I'll give her my flaws. Like,
No, that's weird.
I was doing this yesterday too.
okay, rolling.
Episode 6, take 1, AB Mark.
When you're a stone's throw away from Hollywood, it can feel like you're on the D list or the F list or the C list even. But we know if you're not on the A list, you're on the Z list. So this is Z-listers. Welcome everyone.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. We're talking about Spike Lee today.
Okay.
I'm very excited to talk about Spike Lee.
Lee, comma Spike.
Lee, Spike.
That's what they say on it.
Okay. I think he's also Clooney, George.
Yeah. It's
Right?
big. It's a big thing.
Okay.
Last name then first.
Okay, Lee, Spike. I think it's interesting that I know what a Spike Lee joint is before I had ever seen a Spike Lee film.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he's a director with an aesthetic at this point. And I've always liked that mythology of you know, the arts collective that was happening in Fort Greene and in Brooklyn when that Spike Lee came out of. I always have that mythology in my head.
Of a Spike Lee joint?
Yeah, Spike Lee joint.
Yeah. Go more. What are you saying? Like you just knew what a Spike Lee joint was before you saw this stuff. You just kind of got hip to the Spike. This is a Spike Lee joint.
You know, like the tone, the jazz.
The style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosie Perez.
Yeah.
Dancing around.
Yeah. I grew up on Spike Lee. I mean, like as a black male, like, you know, that's what we watched. And we watched, you know, School Days and Crooklyn and Do the Right Thing. She's Gotta Have It, you know, so like it's kind of like his movies are like embedded into like, it's just what we knew, like growing up. Like, you know, my parents watched it. My sister was a huge fan. I mean, like for black culture, I think it's important.
Yeah,
and
School
a lot
Days
of,
was it.
Yeah, School Days is it.
Because especially when Lawrence Fishburne says "wake up,"
yeah,
there's more to that expression than it's there.
Now everybody's woke, you know.
Yeah,
and he's
exactly.
been saying "wake up" since way
Yes.
back.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
In Do the Right Thing, I feel like it is the culmination of talking about the way different cultures interact with each other and like the small things that create different codes, even within a city block. I mean, it's amazing to, you know, when you go to New York and you're walking around in Brooklyn and you pass through so many cultures and all of these neighborhoods have changed hands so many times.
What it is he's pointing out or showing that there's lots of biases
Yeah.
happening in everyday culture, and you know, the Italians, blacks, whatever, and how we navigate through all of that. Like in School Days talk about the black fraternities
life,
and sororities, that kind of life.
Yeah, which is something that you never see. Like, you know, I'm an Omega, you know, Q Psi Phi all day,
Yeah,
you know,
Psi.
but you have to, you know, that was one of the first, you know, films that I watched, and I never thought about like doing Greek life or anything like that, but I just remember School Days. And then when I got to college and I rewatched it before I even, you know, joined a fraternity, it was just, it made, you got it, you know, it made sense, you know, it invited you into that black called that the black fraternity and sorority culture of college, and it was really interesting. I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off though.
Right. But it also opened up to black literature.
Yeah.
Like Langston Hughes and the music, all that surrounding on what makes African Americans who we are, and the contributions that we've made throughout time.
Yeah.
And so when you're watching School Days, you're seeing like, the light-skinned blacks versus the dark-skinned blacks, the jigaboos and all this other stuff, the little nuances that, in our culture, there is that biases or prejudice against light skin and dark skin and who's better, yada, yada, yada. And it just like, and when you bring into how like Langston Hughes, how his poetry and his stories, Black Boy, the novel, and all of that, there's a whole richness to life and
he's put just thinking he's put so many black actors and actresses where they are today. I mean, you can go. I mean, even Denzel. You could go all the way back. Put Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence is very cool.
God, I mean, just so many people that he's just put. I mean, into their place where they are today. So like he's an integral part of like film. In my opinion. And,
Ozzie Davis.
And he's so Brooklyn, like I was telling you, he's so Brooklyn. Like I live in Brooklyn. We live in Brooklyn.
What is it to be like super Brooklyn? I don't know.
He's very cerebral.
Yeah.
And
hip.
Yeah.
Old school. I mean, like rhythmic.
Yeah.
That's
and like doing you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can be loud and you can be thoughtful and you can be cerebral and you can also walk around in like very funky clothes and everybody
he's
nobody
unapologetic
cares.
about who he is.
And
if you don't like it, well, F you.
Yeah.
I can care less. Yeah.
And also like in Brooklyn you kind of have, I mean, I'm saying that having lived there for like 3 years, but through kind of unique experiences, you figure out that everybody is just trying to do them, and
it's very true. Everybody's just doing them.
I forget who said this, but it's like when people think that New Yorkers are unfriendly or very direct, it's not that everyone is rude; it's that nobody wants to stop. Like everything goes very fast and everyone, in order to even function in the city, you have to put your blinders on. And so when someone else's path doesn't, impedes your path, both like physically and, like and do the right thing economically, then that's where the conflict comes in.
Spike is more into celebrating the culture of who Black Americans are.
Yeah. And like going back to like him being like, his films have like a rhythm to it. Like it's almost like a song. It's like
Don brought up poetry.
Yeah, poetry and
musicality.
Yeah, and then to turn around and see like, I mean, I know there are certain things that not everyone's seen, but you've seen music video. I mean, like he's done Michael Jackson music videos.
Right.
I mean, he's done he's done music, like that's his thing too. It's not just like
Do you know how he goes about setting up a scene? Does he rehearse a lot with the actors? Because I feel like whenever the projects I've watched, the movies I've watched, his work, it's almost as if a skeleton has been set up, but he puts the right people in place to present the vulnerability, and he lets things play out. Like we talked about how sound moves. Well, I found that a lot of silence moves his scenes too, but those scenes end up with the silence. I sit very uncomfortable with myself because whatever I have seen before that silence has disturbed me, has like interrupted my core to us, where I'm now thinking, are we in trouble here, or are they safe? What's going to happen next? Especially Do the Right Thing, or the economical struggles of people.
I think he's like, I worked on She Hate Me, that was background, years ago. And he's intense, just from watching him. And so he sets the story. I think he talks to the actors like talking about the scene. And then once he talked about the scene.
Well, he was like an actor. I mean, like
Yeah,
She's
he's
Gotta
an actor.
Have It. He
Yeah.
was in it. School Days. His first three
Sure,
major
yeah.
films. He
Yeah.
was he
He
was
was
it.
amazing.
You know,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that's interesting because I don't know what made was he an actor? What did he want to do? Kind of like I think he always was. I know he wanted to be in front of the camera, but then I think he realized he'd rather make. Direct it and give you and like feed the actors what they need. So I've met him, but I've never been in on a set. I have heard he's like very intense.
It feels like
intense.
sometimes
Yeah.
things go off script, and
Yeah.
that's what we see.
Yeah.
That's what's the end result is what's gone off script.
Yeah,
But feels-
because I think he's like he lets the actor play that scene,
Uh-huh.
be in that moment,
Mhm.
and gives the actor that license, the permission, or like, here, this is yours. Do with it, make me proud.
Yeah.
And then,
And he said that even in like Inside Man, which is probably one of my favorites of his, with Denzel. I'm not inspired to be like him. He's an inspiration to me, so I watch a lot of his stuff. But when he was in Inside Man, Denzel was like, Keith Frazier's a detective, and he wears a terrible hat in it, man, and it's like a sun hat basically, and he's like a detective in New York, and he was like fedora. That's what I was trying to get. And he puts it on, and I think he said something like Spike was like, Spike didn't say he could wear it. He just put it on. He was like, well, if that's what you're gonna do, go with it and make it work. And that was his staple in the film. And I think he does give him a little trust, And then if he doesn't like it, I guess he'll step in.
I
and
imagine
Spike.
he would step
Yeah,
in.
he'll step in.
yeah,
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Speaking of stepping in, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Z-Listers. So we've been talking about Spike Lee. We touched a lot on his earlier work. It's now 2019, and he's been nominated for Best Director for Black Klansman.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good.
Good for
Yeah.
him.
It was. I get you on that. It was different from anything else I've seen him do. Same kind of style, but I guess just the story of it, like being a true story, was really. It was different, and it was powerful too. Just hearing that story, and of John David playing this officer who goes undercover into the Klansmen, and him taking that kind of in 2019, taking that topic, which is so prevalent right now.
Right.
Yeah.
At my old university, unfortunately, with the KKK rally and those things, and it was just
right.
at UVA,
Yeah,
It's just for him to kind of come out and put that out in the world at this time, it's a Spike Lee joint. It's a move,
Yeah.
I mean, I have not seen it, although I have the screener. Just because of the subject matter, and my doing past research on different topics and delving into KKK and all other stuff, that was not like something that I was drawn to see at this point in time, just because I just already kind of have an idea of the background. I'm like, that's something I had to work up to, and I'm like, I'm not feeling
Feels like
it,
that's the
but
case
it's-
with a lot of his movies, where you have to be emotionally, physically, mentally prepared to sit down and be told a story that it may not resonate with you in any way, but tough.
And then like Malcolm X too,
And
and Malcolm X was like another tough one,
Yeah.
that he had to do, and I'm not sure the year when Malcolm X came out, but it was a story that I know was never like really just glorified like he made it glorified. The story of Malcolm X. You knew Black Power. You knew him in the Muslim world of faith, and he's pushing that limit. He's like, somebody's got to tell this story.
yeah, and that's what I so appreciate about him as a director, as a writer, and as an actor, to be willing to peel the layer back, to see the center of the onion, and to show us pieces of our history. And facts we want to bury, and he says, no, you may not bury these truths.
Yeah, we talked about he's got game too with Denzel, and obviously he loves him some Zell, but and he took Ray Allen, who's a professional basketball player, and put him in the spotlight, and it was another story about a hard life with a black father and his black son trying to get along. And I mean, I hate to say that still goes on today, and black fathers not being part of their their sons' lives, and that story right there was another one, that even us as Black people, we watch and we're like, oh, we can relate to that. And then maybe white Americans that are not familiar with that kind of society, that kind of culture, them to see it, it's hard to watch, but it's there,
Yeah. Well, and that comes from my own ignorance, because I grew up barefoot on sand in a little beach town, and I had not actually ever been to Brooklyn or really experienced Brooklyn. So for me to be able to have this window, and I appreciate Spike Lee for what I feel, he doesn't necessarily, yes, he's going to put his opinion into his subject matter, but at the same time he doesn't have to, because it's already been made, and he's just the artist in which the topic is being put out there and colored to life for us, and I appreciate that. I learned a lot about society.
I love that he's tackling the Klan, and I actually think that we haven't had enough of a dialogue about that, because I mean for sure, I never met my grandfather, but he grew up in rural Georgia, same place where my mom grew up, and he was probably a racist. Like, he probably was. And, and even the communities, the way that you build community there is you have Mason lodges, and you have, the Eastern Star and stuff like that. And a lot of those associations were also associated with the Klan. And there's just so much about my history, or the history of the white race in America, and the way that people have continued to benefit, and you have to see the other side of the story.
Yeah.
I watched Black Klansman, and then literally the next week I'm getting out of this elevator coming from a casting, and Adam Driver walks into the elevator, and I'm walking out, and I wanted to be like,
Yeah. No, that's what I do. I guess I'm trying to articulate my Brooklyn experience, or my New York experience. And it is very weird having, my family is white, with a hard H. And I'm someone who lives in Brooklyn, could probably be called a gentrifier. But I also do things like participate in the hip hop community. I freestyle. And I think that in many ways, hip hop is a language that you can learn. And I think that Spike Lee's films reflect that language.
Well, I love how he's put now Denzel's son into his first big film. John's been working for a while, but it's just funny to see young Denzel, right? Denzel grow old, still work for Spike, and then it's just then you bring back his son, and then you're
gonna see that a lot. A lot of directors, they like to work with a core group of actors, and so you'll see Spike Lee working a lot with Denzel.
Oh yeah, it's all of them. You got it's their whole team. It's just all the way from Adam Sandler's whole clique that he's got and crew to Will Smith's focus group with Margot, and then you see Spike with Denzel, and you're right. They build these little families, and now Spike's now his son's grown up. Now he's part of the family. It's just, and there's something family about that. I know that's weird, but as Black families, that's what we do. We help, we lift each other up, we keep us going. So.
Yeah. It's, God, what's his director? He's gonna kill me now. It's an American Gangster. I worked on American Gangster.
Oh, nice. That's one of my favorites.
The Scott brothers.
It's okay.
Tell
I
us.
forgot to.
Oh my God. Who directed American Gangster? And I just worked with him.
Ridley Scott. No.
Well, anyway.
I know what you're talking about.
He works a lot with Russell.
Ridley. Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott. I thought it was.
Oh my God. Please, sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry, Ridley. He works a lot with Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
He works a lot with, some of the other, I forget the other actors, but directors, they love who they love. and it will work with them constantly.
Well, and
So-
they're looking for that shorthand too. I
Yeah.
imagine that they want to build that trust. It takes a while
Yeah.
to create an environment in which the actor feels prepared to
And-
jump off that.
Yeah, and stepping back to
cliff.
Spike, like you have to know somebody, like you have to have somebody that's willing to take that deep dive with you. You know,
Yeah.
who's
It's a
willing to
deep
take
dive.
play Malcolm X for you, who's willing to go
Yeah.
talk about a movie for the Black Klansman. Like you build this trust, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what, you know, you can't just go ask anybody like, hey, you know,
Right.
we about to make this KKK movie, you know, you trying to get down with it.
Well,
It's
I
just like-
imagine as a director with someone who wants to make movies which at the time were not part of the mainstream, that's probably why he put himself as cast himself as the main actor and was acting in his films.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's
Right.
a good point.
Well,
That's a
he's
good
more
point.
supporting than the main actor.
Right.
He's the, I guess the guardian.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes you'll see Spike playing a smaller part. He's guiding, kind of almost like.
And I know you said you think you see Michael Jackson's "This Is It."
Yeah.
Like I love
Yeah.
that. Like you know, it's just
Yeah.
kind of like, who thought Spike would have done?
What a variety
Yeah,
of
what a-
types of
yeah,
projects he
yeah.
has taken on.
And you know what? This is not it, but we will discuss This Is It when we come back. And we're back here on Z-Lister. So we've been talking about Spike Lee.
We're talking. He's big into technology.
Yeah.
I know he's big in. I mean, he's pushing over 60 now.
Yeah.
You know, probably from going from shooting. I just remember seeing a documentary on him, and he was using like this new Sony camera out in like the desert for some shoot, and he was just like blasting about how great it was and how he's like, I shot on film for so long, and like how long he'd been in the game, and then he remembers this camera, and now he's using this new Sony camera, and like, before you know it, he'll be doing VR by the time he's 7.
Yeah, I mean, like, and there's directors that are already working in that field, but I feel like Spike Lee, he's such a respected director that he's somebody that you could really trust to put this new tool in his hands and be like, listen, like we trust you, like you've got a family that you've created behind you, you know, we like your vision, we like what you said, you know, like it's like you've got some really good things to say, like like please do this.
Build us a world.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like we don't need, again, like because we are so new, it's kind of like we don't need, you know, like any of the old guard. It's like we need people who have those things to say, because that really is what the power of VR is. That's what the tool. It's a tool to be used for empathy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think even with video games, the ability to go through a narrative and change characters and change perspectives lends itself to, I mean, very much like a Spike Lee film where you're seeing a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, or ones that you just would never like walk up to in day-to-day life. You know, because I'm also not a Brooklynite. I don't walk around that area.
Right. Well, you come to New York, we'll show you some cool
Okay.
spots.
I was really curious. It's like, so Spike Lee, like, it seems like a lot of the things that he's doing are super culturally relevant in like this day and age, but it's like when he started as a filmmaker, you know, was he always sort of like, was his message sort of the same coming through, or did he sort of like grow into the sort of filmmaker that we consider him today? Like, was
the same.
Yeah.
It's the same, and just continue on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, he's making, what I actually really love about the art that was being made in like the 80s is that like you see with like the Afrocentric movement, you have like hip hop is growing and hip hop's becoming, you know, a way to talk about what is happening in communities that aren't being looked at. Like hip hop came out of block parties in Harlem that were just, you know, set up out of nothing. Like someone had speakers, someone had to bring the speakers, and then you have this, you just have a community that doesn't really have anything to celebrate, but they're celebrating. But so at that same time in the 80s when hip hop was really coming into its own, in Manhattan, you also have punk, you have like a lot of nihilism and darkness from punk. I mean, the book that's written on that movement, or the oral history of that movement, is called Please Kill Me. Like all these people who are experiencing probably a deficit in the culture, to be honest, and a lack of dialogue. When over in Brooklyn, you have Spike Lee and a lot of artists and writers in Fort Greene that are talking about building a community and talking about. I mean, Spike Lee said we didn't want to starve for our art. Like, we didn't want to be. I mean, that's not a direct quote. But he wanted to make money off of his art, and so did the community around him.
And also like his parents, like not that your parents kill your dreams, or that was like another that we talked about earlier.
He said sometimes parents are the worst killers of dreams, or the biggest killers out of anybody. Yeah. I mean, that is interesting. His parents were musicians. And I imagine
it's a
that's
hard life in itself.
Yeah.
Especially during that time, because parents always want something better for their children.
Yeah.
And because Spike Lee used credit cards to pay off which film that it was that he used.
School Days.
Yes.
Yeah, School Days.
Yeah,
because he shot that partially at Morehouse. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure he did shoot a little bit of that at Morehouse, but he did use his parents' credit card to make that one. We also talk about how hard it is to find some of this stuff. Like, you don't stream. You don't see She's Gotta Have It on TV. You don't see school. No. You definitely don't. Not definitely. You don't see School Days on TV. You don't see his stuff on TV. Actually, you don't even see Inside Man on TV.
Yeah,
to be honest. I
they're
have
kind
all
of
this stuff
archived.
on like DVD.
Well, I wonder if that's him being protective of his catalog, or it can't be that it's just not.
We've talked about how so many of his projects are now relevant to today. So does he somehow control the content in which, like, suddenly something becomes available when he has a topic he wants to talk about? I don't know.
It's a whole different story.
I think it's
I don't know how it works.
I think it's like in some ways
Marketing.
it's part of that, and then you have studios who will not buy stuff that he does because it's too political or too black.
A lot of what I've read, it's like when movies are coming out, are you introducing a topic to an audience that will now create more conflict, even though that conflict always existed? Are you going to ensue riots by presenting this movie?
And at the time,
I can't
Or
imagine.
like Jungle Fever, interracial relationships.
Yeah.
Now that's a topic that, when we worked on Richard and Mildred Loving's story, the first interracial relationship, a marriage that was allowed in this country, in the state of Virginia.
I can't imagine what it was like. Yeah, I got this show for you. I got this movie. It's called Black Klansman, and there's 3 KKKs. In the
Exactly.
I just can't imagine how he went in the room and was like, we're gonna do
And
this.
only because Spike Lee joined movie, right? Spike Lee.
Right.
Yeah. He's one and only.
Well, this has been a great dialogue talking about Spike Lee. Thank you so much, and we'll see you back on Z-Listers.
Hollywood hills are greenish brown, and everything seemed to be so strange. Coming from the coast again, and everything seemed to move so slow. When I watch them, there they go. There they go. Walk around now, wander around my Hollywood hotel. They're so strange. My Hollywood hotel. And my cigarette half burned, and the smoke dances around my hand. A church sign's gonna light the sky.